Thanks for joining us on episode 1491 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Petar Krastev. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to recognize that whatever is holding you back can be overcome is key. And one way to do that is listen to this. The Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Mather. That moment, everything changed like night and day. Absolutely, my whole feeling of life, my life, the people around me, the things that were happening, everything shifted. And I was like put in a new path, like in a new body, in a new life.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's podcast episode, I interview Petar Krastev. I asked Petar about the challenges he faced as he began his journey to becoming a fitness coach. I also asked Petar about how he found faith and how it changed his journey. And Petar also shares more about what he does now as a fitness coach. I've got a new book coming out called Inspired Living, Assembling the Puzzle of Your Call by Mastering Your Time, Your Talent, and Your Treasures. You can find out more about it and sign up for getting more information over at inspiredstewardship.com, Inspired Living. That's inspiredstewardship.com, Inspired Living. Petar Krastev is the founder of Coach PK, a fitness coach and a grateful servant of God who has been blessed with a path of transformation, resilience, and faith. At 22, he left his home country with just 10 euros and a bag of clothes, embarking on a journey that was anything but easy. From living on the streets and working in grueling jobs to spending 18 months in a lock-up garage without basic amenities, he faced extreme hardship. But even through these struggles, he never gave up on his dream of building something meaningful. It was in these dark moments that he made a commitment to fitness and personal growth, laying the foundations for Coach PK. In 2019, his life took a profound turn when he found Jesus and became a newborn Christian. God saved him and gave him the strength to overcome the toughest moments, transforming his soul in the process. His business and life are now grounded in faith. Through God's grace, he founded Coach PK, where he guides entrepreneurs and business leaders, those who often sacrifice their health for career success, towards reclaiming their fitness and well-being. His approach is not just about physical transformation, but about fostering spiritual and mental resilience as well. Welcome to the show, Petar.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So I shared a little bit in the intro about some of the trials and the tribulations you've had on your journey to becoming a coach and doing the work that you do now. But I've always found that intros are Instagram photos. They only show a little bit of the picture. They don't show the whole picture. Would you go into a little bit more, talk about your journey and what has brought you to this point in your journey?
If we start from an early age, I guess that's where it all started, because I always was the guy who, the kid that was bullied a lot. I was kind of an average kid or below average. So I always had these ambitions to be something more. And I think that was a childhood trauma that it really propelled me in life. And I think I still have some traits, characteristics from that childhood trauma. I still have a little bit of desire to be proven or appreciated or noticed. I know that's not very normal for a lot of people. I think that comes from there. And it's something to do with why I'm an entrepreneur, why I do what I do. So I always wanted to be different, but I was always failing. I got into drugs at a very early age, mixing up with the wrong companies, and that just pulled me in the wrong directions. At the age of 22 is when really things went sideways, when I had to escape from my country. And so I just had like one ticket and 10 euros in my pocket. A very toxic relationship. I was a stepdad of another child, and I had to live in this situation and land in the UK with these 10 euros. And I think that's when I started discovering what I know, what I don't know, what I'm capable of. I was really forced to survive for a few years and provide not just for myself, for that family that I had. And I managed somehow to go through a lot of struggles for a few years. I achieved what seemed impossible from the side. And during this period, I never believed I could ever do anything like that if I wasn't forced.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like God has put me through tremendous struggles so he can, first of all, show me that I'm not good enough, something that I've discovered very soon after, not good enough on my own. And second of all, to build me up and to having the character traits, the knowledge, the maybe the resilience that I have right now so I can do what I do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that enough? Or should
Early on, let me pick a few of those things apart. Early on, you mentioned that you got into drugs, and you also mentioned the feeling like you wanted to be something more and you wanted to belong. Do you think those two emotions were related? Is that kind of part of what got you into hanging out with the wrong people?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Maybe if I had the choice to choose between a healthier environment without the drugs, I would have chosen that. But we can't know the answer to this question because there wasn't such environment around me.
You didn't really have that environment there to choose. Yeah.
Yeah. So I chose the only option.
Uh-huh. And when you got out of that and got into the UK, obviously you were starting from ground zero with nothing. As you built it up and as you began to have some success, was there that feeling of, oh, okay, I'm going to do a different thing now? Or were you being drawn back into some of the other choices that you had?
I definitely decided not to go back to taking drugs or mixing up with the same type of people because my life definitely spiraled down to close to the end. It felt like I don't want to live anymore. It felt like I want to end my life very frequently. So I said, I will change the direction. So it wasn't like I wanted to go back. I really cut everything off. All the paths, all the friends that I had, I cut off this part of my life and I tried to move forward. And I wouldn't say I immediately achieved success, to be honest. I achieved success in achieving what I wanted to do with that relationship that I had, something that I had to help her to fix a health condition that she had, look after her kid at the same time, and build myself somewhat of a future and a chance to do something better in future and have financial success. So I just was building the foundations and dealing with personal issues. But that was so big, to be honest. That was such a huge thing. If I didn't make it through, I would have never had the belief, the self-esteem, the resilience that I'm having right now. So achieving these personal successes, it's what propels me forward now in business entrepreneurship. And I have a pretty good life, to be honest. I'm very blessed and enjoy that. And it's all possible because I was there. If I wasn't there, I would be like, I don't know, maybe if I wasn't going to be alive at all.
Mm-hmm. One of the things too, that looking back on it now, you're talking about how you went through that and you think in part it was to prepare you for what you are today. Just for those folks that maybe they're in that valley right now, they're going through the bad stuff and they haven't come out the other side. What would you say to them to help them realize that maybe there is something to this beyond just the pain that they're feeling in that moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's something that I often have to speak about because the clients that come to me are very much in tough places all the time. I do have some guys that I constantly have to check in with and give them a little bit of encouragement. And as a believer in God, a huge believer in God and in his works and everything he does in us and through us, I always say that whatever he's put you through, there is a reason, and that's not a bad reason. He either has to force you to grow and become better in some way, or maybe you're there for something else, and you will be rewarded at the end. You have to continue going. And from my purely human point of view, if we can call it that, when you're in these dark times, it feels like there's no end to it. It feels like this is your life. It really feels like there's absolutely no hope. I've been there and I lived there, and I'm telling you, my bottom lasted for a few years, and they ended. It all ended eventually. Something happens, life goes on, and you find yourself on the other side. All you have to do is just survive, go through the whole thing, pray to God, be patient, just accept it, and try to build yourself up as you're in that space. The worst thing you can do is just sit back and wait for things to change. I think it's our responsibility to make an effort to change. You can trust God all you want, but I'm not sure if He's going to help you if you're just being lazy and whining about it. If you truly have faith in His works, that will express in somewhat of enthusiasm from your side to change things. And you will be working knowing that He will open the ways for you and He will protect you and He will help you. And that's the attitude you need to have. And if you have it, there's probably not many things that we can't get out of. Probably you can make it, and probably you can make it very strong, and it will be very nice at the end. So just have faith and keep changing things, that you don't keep working. Don't live with the impression that everything right now kind of defines who you are. Maybe it's your relationships, your job, your finance, your house, maybe live on the streets, and maybe health condition. Don't let these things define you. But if you don't like them, give it your best to change them. If you don't like the country you live in, change the country. If you don't like the job, change the job. If that's risky and dangerous, trust God and do it anyway. That's my advice. Now, obviously, don't keep me responsible if you decide to jump off the wrong building, but you got to make an effort.
So talk a little bit about how your faith journey evolved as you went through these things and how that interacted with how you came through it.
That's a very good testimony that I have in my life and how God saved me. Up to the 28 years old, after all these struggles, I kept failing a lot, and I went through misery after misery. Everything that I touched in my life absolutely failed. Every decision that I made was a wrong decision. And I was trying very hard to be a good person. I wasn't that good person. And that ended up scaring me. I used to think I will figure it out, but trust me, I was very hardly working on figuring it out, and it seems like I exhausted all my options. And I found myself one day asking myself, what am I missing? I'm really missing a lot. And then it's when God saved me, or I found Him. A guy told me to pray and explained to me how to pray, and there was a few experiences that I had that made me very curious and open to the idea of praying, even though I never believed in God in my life. And one night I prayed in the name of Jesus to be forgiven and to be shown the truth. Nothing changed in that instance, but on the next day something happened, and I had like an encounter with God. And from that moment, everything changed like a night and day. Absolutely. My whole feeling of life, my life, the people around me, the things that were happening, everything shifted. And I was like put in a new path, like in a new body, in a new life. And ever since, I've just been extremely grateful. The first month, I was just crying almost every single day, multiple times, because I'm being so grateful. I never felt love like that. I never felt appreciation like that. So God pulled me out from absolutely the end and gave me a new life that's better and greater than most people's lives. He blessed me so much. And that's that part is what really keeps me going, because that doesn't stop. It's just still there. And I can never forget where I was, what He make me go through, what is He building from me right now, what He wants me to do. Now I'm seeing people's lives change around me. I'm helping others. I think if it wasn't the struggles and the pain, how would have I even had the chance to appreciate what I'm having right now? who God is and how he saved me. People don't understand that until we go through this. This is such a high, strong emotion that it's actually very hard for me to talk about it right now.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
When you think about what you do today, do you feel like what you're doing now is in alignment with what God has called you to do?
Yeah, it seems like it. The way I know it is, first of all, my spirit that I carry, that's the Holy Spirit, is in peace with what I do. And I always check in with it and making sure it feels good every time I do something. When I joined the industry, that was just a few months. I wasn't even in the industry. I just decided to dedicate myself to fitness. And that was a few months before I found God. It all aligned in that direction. It seems like it's all meant to be. And I'm constantly being blessed in my professional work. God opens doors to me that normal people don't have options. I can tell you specific stories, but truly things happen to me that uh, put me where I am right now and help me thrive in this industry. And I contribute that to him. And if he's blessing me, if he's put me on that path, if I can see that people are changing and being saved through my works, then I guess, yeah, I guess that's exactly what he wants me to do. Where does he want me to get? Not really sure, but I think this is the path.
Mhm. So going back to the beginning of it, you said you had decided to put your life in alignment with fitness, and that was a big part of your life before you had that moment of prayer. What was it about fitness? What attracted you to that as something that you wanted to do?
That was purely my desire to be extremely successful one day and to have everything, the freedom, the money, and not worry about anything. Because I failed multiple endeavors as an entrepreneur. Some of them turned into business, many of them did not, and all of them failed. And I spent about 6 months before I make the decision to study the most successful people around the world. And I had my criteria for who is successful. I wanted to see people who are fulfilled, who are happy, and who stay there, who, like you see every day, and they stay there for all your life. They are just super successful and they are just there. I wanted to figure out what makes them who they are. And I did came to a conclusion. They all had two traits in common. One of them was they all loved what they did, and the other was they always quit. And I didn't have either of these traits. So I decided to reverse engineer the whole process as my last call. That was my final decision of what am I going to do. I decided to pick something that I can love and something that I will never quit again. And there was nothing that I can love. Back in the day, I didn't love sports or fitness. I would say it was rather daunting to go to the gym, and it felt exhausting and hard. I wasn't disciplined. I wasn't consistent. I had none of the traits that I have right now. But every time I was going to the gym, I was feeling better. Every time it was paying off. Every time it was making me a better person. Every time it was just rewarding experience from the moment you step in, even though I didn't like going in. So that made me think maybe I can start loving that thing. Maybe I can really dedicate my life to this. And I did. And it was like a decision that I made, very powerful decision. I remember the place where I made it, how I made it. I was just walking in the parking in Amazon and just said, that's it. I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to sports. I'm never going to quit again. It was as crazy as that. I wasn't a fit athlete or anything, had no knowledge, but I did it. And now, 6 years later, I'm talking to you about it, how it changed my life, how I'm changing people's lives.
Mhm.
And I think God made it all happen.
So, given that you mentioned you tried a lot of other things, you'd failed at a lot of other things, and you just talked about you weren't necessarily quote good at fitness or anything else, but that you decided, okay, this is the thing I'm going to dedicate my life to. So it was really that feeling of, wait a minute, this is making me feel when I do this, I feel better. Is that the kind of big driver?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and there was something about it that I always felt dependent on that because I wasn't a good looking guy. I was very insecure kid. And I always had the need to train to feel more self-esteem and to feel more like I can fit in, to feel more liked by women, and to overall just feel better. But I always had to sacrifice my training for business and for work. And it was a cycle that I was living in, which is accidentally now most of my clients who come to me, they actually live in this cycle, and I'm helping them get out of this cycle. And it was that, like, always sacrificing my fitness for business. And that's why my fitness was never up to speed. But every time I stopped my fitness, my business was falling apart a few months later. It was actually exactly 3 months. There was a pattern. Every time I stopped training, 3 months later, something bad happens and I can't cope. I desperately need to get back on track with training and everything. And I was starting training again. So it was very frustrating cycle I was living in. And I decided to get out of cycle by making fitness my business. And I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
So the kind of people that you work with, talk a little bit about who you work with and what are they struggling with? Why do they come to you for help?
I specialize in working with entrepreneurs and some sort of executives because they have the traits that I had myself. People who build success, who are very good at processing, systemizing things, following a system structure, but never find a way to actually make fitness last and being part of this lifestyle. They always sacrificed it for one or another reason. Maybe they've tried some diets and some methods and they get some results, and then when they stop, they lose it all. So this is the kind of people I work with, and they come to me. They often want to lose weight. Sometimes they want to improve their general health, and I help them achieve these things, but also overcome this cycle. We want to end the cycle of starting and stopping. We want to create a sustainable lifestyle, which really requires personal change, growth. They need to start loving the process, which means they first need to understand it in depth. They need to experience the ups and downs, how to deal with them. And it's a very transformative journey. And that's how we do it. We work together, one to one, to achieve that on a very personal level.
Mm-hmm. And you said you've been coaching and doing this for 6 years now?
I would say 6 years ago is when I decided to dedicate my life to this. So maybe it's been like 5 years, about 5 years when I got my first clients.
Kind of decided to turn it into a business. Mm-hmm. What have you seen change in either how you approach it or when you think about what you do, how has that changed over those 5 years?
A lot, like literally so much, but mostly it changed at the beginning when I was very blessed to be put in a social network, which was called Clubhouse. As soon as they opened, there was a big boom of this thing. It's an audio only, like Twitter Spaces right now. Twitter Spaces actually is a model that came up from Clubhouse. Clubhouse was way before that. And it was absolutely insane. There was COVID then. Everybody was at home, people around the world, and everybody was in this app like all day long. And I, out of nowhere, found a community there called Limitless Body and Mind. It was a health and fitness professionals community where we have experts from the health and fitness world coming up and talking. And I had the chance to be the host, like you are right now in this podcast, but I had an audience of hundreds of people, over 1,000 sometimes. And we had the regular speakers who were like veterans in the industry of nutritionists, dietitians, trainers, coaches of world-class athletes, world champions, black belts, scientists, PhDs, whatever comes to your mind. We had it in the room, and I had this going for a good 6 months, for about 2-3 hours every single day, discussing topics which I was coming up with the topics, anything that I didn't know, anything that I wanted to learn more about, anything that I found people find interesting or myself interesting. I was making a debate out of it. I was like setting the topic, opening the room, starting asking the questions, and I was making this room just go wild. You're having these experts who are supposedly knowing everything and they should have the same opinion. They were arguing like crazy. Mm-hmm. They were like debating things so much. This was the most debating room in the world at that time. That's how it felt. And you can imagine the amount of knowledge that I gained from that. It was a precedented amount of knowledge. What I gained from that room, people can't gain from 15 years on the gym floor if they just stay in 1 or 2 gyms. We're talking about a huge amount of knowledge that was shared through like decades, maybe hundreds of tens of decades or hundreds of years of experience all together in one room talking. And that changed me. That changed me like 180 degrees. What I thought I know about fitness, what I thought about any of that thing, which I learned from YouTube or some courses, most of it was wrong. I'm thinking in a completely different way. And ever since, I'm mostly following the same methodology. The business changed. I became more efficient at delivering the service. The service became much more easy to follow by the clients. So we have the community now. The community is called the Limitless Body and Mind again, and it's expanded into not just health and fitness, but also business mastermind. So I'm getting these people now together, which only they alone, they can just excel faster without me. And I'm just guiding them and teaching them. So yeah, I think that covers it.
So when you think about, you said that before you had these beliefs about fitness from YouTube, from courses, from other things, and then after going through that room, you changed it. If you could articulate because I'm sure you're not the only one that has the beliefs that you had before. What were some of the things that you discovered you were looking at it the wrong way that, that experience helped you realize, wait, that's not the right way to look at it?
So it's a very good question. We can talk about, for example, the diets. When it comes to diet, I used to know that it's important to be on a caloric deficit, and that's how you're going to lose weight. And I was putting myself through restrictive diets and burning a lot of calories throughout the day. But I never understood how that actually is going to become my lifestyle. How is that going to really stick? And I was following regimens that I found online from influencers or people on YouTube who advise you to follow a specific diet, like a carb cycling or a keto diet, or just reduce the calories, reduce the carbs, eat a certain amount of calories, and they just give you the number. And other people telling me how many times I should be working out so I can look in a specific way. What I realized is through following these methods that I found online, I was always burning out, always not performing at my best. It was never going to stick. It was always like a massive challenge to follow these programs. And through my extensive education in that room, I realized that there's a vast field of tools that we can use to create a personalized nutrition and training plan, something that's going to stick to somebody. It's not about just one specific diet that we call with some fancy name and a workout regimen. Like, for example, I used to believe in calisthenics training, and I thought calisthenics training is the best training. They managed to change my mind that calisthenics training is the best, is one of the best training modalities. It's a great training, but there's also a bunch of other super great modalities and training varieties that can very much fit in somebody's lifestyle much better than just calisthenics. So if I have to take a 50 years old man who's having some health complications right now, diabetes, doesn't have much time, has an empty garage, has a gym in 10 miles away, and if I have to give him a workout regimen and something that he can follow, I will create something for the garage. I'm not going to ask him to travel to the gym. I will ask him what weights he can lift comfortably, and with that weights or without weights, I will create a plan that will achieve the same results that we want to achieve. So instead of picking up the diet or the training plan based on like recommendations online, which diet is best for what or which training plan is best for what, I take the person, I assess what his body is like, what needs he has, what his diet habits are, what foods he loves, what he doesn't. I make small tweaks so he can actually implement them without causing a tremendous stress in his life and making it a struggle. And slowly we make the right changes to get to that goal. I know it might sound like a bit of a hard thing to grasp.
It's basically that instead of looking at things as this is the one best way that everyone should follow, you begin to say, hold on, there's a whole bunch of tools that I have in my toolbox, and it's better to find the right tool for the right person at the right time than it is to just say, this is the one way.
Precisely. It's like trying to unscrew with the wrong screw. You might do the job, but it's going to damage the screw. Next time
You're trying to put a screw in the wall and you're using a hammer to do it. It'll work, but it's not the best way to do it. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I call my brand Inspired Stewardship, and I run everything through that lens of stewardship. And yet that's one of those words that I use, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when you hear the word stewardship, what does that word mean to you?
Oh, as an English second language, I'm really not sure. Like, it's more of a who I am for God, and in my life, I more think of like a servant who is being put in life to learn to become better and to serve, and that's what I connected with. But to be honest, I might be completely wrong what it even means.
I don't think you're completely wrong at all, for two reasons. One is that's actually right on track. And then two is I'm asking what it means to you. So there is no wrong answer. Because if what it meant to you is that's what it means to you. That has to be the right answer to it. So let me ask you this question. This is actually my favorite question that I like to ask every guest. Imagine for a minute that I invented this magic machine. And with this machine, I was able to pluck you from where you are today and transport you into the future, maybe 150, maybe 250 years. But through this machine, you were able to look back and see your entire life, see all of the connections, all of the ripples, all of the impacts you've left. What impact do you hope you've had in the world?
A very positive one. I want to inspire so much the young people, so they never want to be what I wanted to be as a young person. I want to change the young generation. I definitely want to be that, not just through health and fitness. I see myself as doing health and fitness. I see I'm never going to quit that, and people will know me for that. But the impact that I will have in the world will be much greater, because I will use my success, my influence, to do even greater things, not just in the area of health and fitness. I want to give people a path to follow. I want to make it a walkable path, something that exists there and they can just step on it and go. When I went into this wildlife world, there was no path for me. There was not even a sign. There was not even somebody telling you can find that somewhere in there. Everybody was saying, this is impossible. Don't even try, including my parents. So that's the essence of what I want to be in this world and how I want to serve the world.
So what's on the roadmap? What's coming next for you as you continue on your journey?
I have a few awards to pick. I'm going to Dubai now to pick my Excellence in Healthcare Award. I'm again selected for a National Coaching Award in the UK, picking up some awards and building up the business. I'm learning on the side some small other businesses now, and as I became more financially stable and I have a little bit more time. So I'm just growing, and I want to grow the community. I want to grow everything to make it better. It's only about improvement right now, improvement and making things better. It's all about that for the next few years. Yeah.
So you can find out more about Petar Krastev on his website at pk.coach. Of course, I'll have a link to that over in the show notes as well. Petar, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
Thanks for listening. And if you ever need to get in touch to talk or ask me a question, please do. Don't think that I'm too busy or I don't have time for you. I do respond to all my messages personally, and I would appreciate talking to you and hearing your feedback. Or if you have any questions, maybe I can help.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.